Today we're learning chapter number 8 in Sha'ar HaYichud veHaEmunah, and I didn't make copies, but we're going to discuss, next week we'll read it inside, but we'll discuss the idea of this chapter by heart. Maybe I'll read some of the Hebrew, and it's very interesting because we learn about the oneness of Hashem. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. What does this mean, one? Usually when you say one, what does that mean?
Uno.
Single.
So that's it. Sometimes it's single. Sometimes it's one of. When it's even sometimes, when it's single, you don't have to say one. It's single. There's nothing else here that exists. When we say Echad by Hashem, so we really mean that he's single, and soon we'll see to what extent. Sorry?
And odd.
And odd milvado, exactly. There's nothing else besides him. So, unlike us human beings, in Hasidus there's an expression called Achdut Pshuta, a simple oneness. That's how we would call it. That would be like the translation. That's not the real translation, but that means that Hashem he's not one as part of many, but he is a pure oneness. I'll give you an example from there was once in Switzerland, they had some kind of factory in a very peaceful village, and one night there was explosives that went off. And when they came in the morning, so they said that the Israeli Mossad was there. They did it. And why? It's because it was a very professional job and they didn't take anything. And the story was that the Mossad discovered, they saw it also in Iraq after they conquered Iraq. So they discovered that they saw the nuclear plan of Iraq, and what they saw is that they bought a lot of parts that you need for building nuclear reactors and for all the things that have to do with building the nuclear bomb. So they brought it separately. It's like, let's say there's an embargo in a country. They don't allow this country to buy airplanes. So the country cannot go and buy airplanes. So what do? They go to one country and they buy the wings of the airplane. They go to another country, they buy the seats. They go to another country, they buy the wheels. Another country, they buy the engine. And that's how they do it. And then you do it legally because no one, and mostly they understand why you're buying it. No one buys such an engine for a car or for a train. But they say, you know what, this is legal. Sorry?
Gefilte fish.
Gefilte fish. What?
Gefilte fish airplane.
I can fit, yeah. So,
With carrots.
so they understand often why you're doing it, but they say, you know what, it's money and it's an income, so
Israel does it.
Israel does it
Yes.
for themselves.
Yes.
Right. For example, today, when a lot of countries are not prepared to really sell us their parts for the tanks and
Spare parts.
spare parts, exactly. So yeah, you've got to become a chacham. You've got to find, okay, where you're going to get it from. And so there's a few. So what happened there in that factory is that they were selling, I think the Iranians, they were selling them spare parts for missiles and things like that. So Israel gave them a hint that they don't want them to deal with that anymore, not to do it in this way or in that way. By the way, that's also a way that they are able to change the supply chain and to give them bad parts. So that could also happen. There was even there was another famous story in Russia that they basically stole information about how to build a long pipe to transfer gas from one place to the other. So the Americans gave them the wrong plan because they stole it, so they gave them the wrong plan. They knew that they're looking for it. They planted there a wrong design. It caused a huge explosion. So why are we speaking about all of this? This is Achdut Murkevet, which means, how do we say Murkav, Harkava? It's a unity that is put together. Okay? Like the human being, like us, we are Achdut Murkevet. There's the human being, okay, which means his core, sorry.
Especially if you get an organ transplant.
That's flat, but but even without that Shalom Ada, even a person, right, the chokmah of a person, it's added to his essence. When you say, there was once the famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Alter Rebbe. Tzemach Tzedek, by the way, he was taken under the wings of the Alter Rebbe, and they had a very close relationship because the Tzemach Tzedek was the son of a Rebbetzin Dvorah, the daughter of the Alter Rebbe. And what happened was that the Alter Rebbe was very sick one day, and there was a feeling that he might pass away. That's not mamash, not simple. So the Rebbetzin Dvorah said she is giving her life to the Alter Rebbe. And she passed away, the Alter Rebbe continued living. But she had one condition, I think it was a condition or request: take care of my son, the Tzemach Tzedek. So the Tzemach Tzedek was son after daughter. Usually the Rabbi was son after son. There were only two that wasn't son after son, the Tzemach Tzedek and our Rebbe, which is interesting because they were both named Menachem Mendel. And the Rebbe is a direct descendant of the Tzemach Tzedek. So, so the Tzemach Tzedek once was asked by his grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, who is the Zayda? Who is the Saba? Who is the grandpa? So he pointed on the grandfather's face. He said, no, that's my face, it's not me. So he pointed on his nose, on his eyes, etc. And then when he said the beard, and again, it's not that is Achdut Murkevet. So no matter how you want to describe it, it's added to the Alter Rebbe. At the end, he didn't know the answer, so he went back. And then the Tzemach Tzedek called out and he said, Saba, Zayda. And the Alter Rebbe turned around and he said, there isn't. You know. And that's the power of a name, by the way. When you call a person by the name, so you said it, for example, Chanoch, right? So the name, I say the name, it's not you because there could be many people by the name of Chanoch. But on the other hand, that's like your card. So it's a reflection to your essence. So that's why when I say a person's name, by the way, if someone chas v'shalom faints, one of the ways to wake him up, besides pouring a bucket of water, is to try that before. Sorry?
In the ear, to say the name.
To say the name in the ear. And that's the... So the name is very, very powerful.
All these great sages, we learned in the Rambam, the Rosh, did they call each other that, or did they go by their actual?
So it's a very good point. I think then, while at the time they called them by the name, sometimes they refer to them as Hamoire. There's one of them first that refers to the Rambam as Hamoire, the teacher. Respect.
Nobody was calling about the most important publication.
Sorry?
Nobody was called about his writings.
Later generations.
Well.
Yeah. So in later generations, they referred to them by their writings. Because, again, first generations, it wasn't really well known, etc. No. Yeah.
You said something last week that I never heard before, and that is that Hashem is not uniformly distributed through creation. That his presence is more
The intensity is more.
I never heard that before. I'd like to learn a little bit.
Again, what?
I mean, I'd never heard that before.
Could you explain to me what exactly?
In my thinking,
Yeah.
that Hashem would be evenly distributed everywhere.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you brought up that I
So-
never heard it before.
So there are two sides. It's good that you're asking. There's the essence of Hashem, which that is evenly distributed. Okay? So it's like to compare it to it's chanoch yourself. Not your wisdom, not your speech, not your attributes. You yourself. Is there any effect? Not really, because without hearing what you have to say, so there's no real communication between you and the world. So this is a comparison to Hashem, that Hashem is evenly distributed in the world with his essence. The core of Hashem, the luminary itself. The luminary itself is evenly in every single part of the world. There was no tzimtzum, there was no contraction. The luminary itself was never removed. It's inaccessible. The only people that can really access it are little children, because they did not develop enough of a personality that makes it an obstacle. Their senses haven't nikha. How do you say nikha? It's not kaheh. The senses are still pure. So that's why they can relate to the luminary itself. But we can't really relate to the luminary. It's very hard for us to find the luminary itself.
What about the children being Ra mine orav?
Yeah, it goes together. It goes together. There's a very interesting, they do it with people that deal with schizophrenia. Okay, and sometimes they even, or people that hear voices. There's CBT, but this is called CB, forgot something else. And there's a way to deal with it, and they say that the core of the help to these people that they called in Hebrew mitmodedim, because they have to, it doesn't disappear. They hear sometimes voices, sounds. What do? So in order for them to not be affected, they train them to understand that you can feel two emotions together. Sometimes, and this is one of the biggest questions, how can I feel love and hate at the same time? Or love and fear from Hashem, for example. By a Yid, you say certain Jews, you have to love them, every single Jew you've got to love, but sometimes you can also hate them. Right? How does it go together?
Very normal.
Is it normal? I mean, if you would think about it in a simple way, you'd say, or you hate the person, or you love it. What's going on over here? So in Hasidus, it says you love the neshama, and you hate his bad actions, his bad deeds. And you could live with the same thing. It's been a process to develop this idea that a person can live with two different feelings, two different emotions, two sounds that he hears, and he's able to control them simultaneously. So how do we get into all of this? So to answer your question, so yeah, we're connecting to Echad. So the Pashtut, yes, there is a division in the light of Hashem. In a shul, there's more of the luminary, the light of Hashem than outside a shul.
It's what you said last night. The essence and the rays.
Right, the essence and the rays. That the rays, there's a difference. Certain places Hashem exists more, others less. Not talking about the luminary itself. So here we're speaking about the oneness of Hashem, Achdus Hashem, and this is known as Achdus Peshuta, which is a simple or a pure type of oneness. Very different to us. And again, like the comparison is you want to build an aeroplane. So sometimes you can build an aeroplane by bringing the different parts of the aeroplane, bringing it together.
Lego.
Like Lego, exactly. Is it going to be the best aeroplane? Probably not. maybe you should think twice about boarding such a plane. But today, and then we spoke about ammunition and weapons that countries try and develop. So they're not allowed to buy the original, but they buy many spare parts, and they try out of those spare parts to form some kind of missile, bomb, rocket, whatever it is. And that is Achdut Murkevet. We are all, in the world in general, it's all Achdut Murkevet. You've got a table.
Complexity.
So the table, complexity, thank you. How do we say Achdut Murkevet? A complex unity, or so. For example, the table is one thing. Now I refer to it as a table. But truly, this is a Shulchan Murkav. This is formed. It's formed out of plastic that serves as the surface of the table. There's the legs. Okay, at the bottom of the legs, they have to have these rubber plastic parts to avoid scratches on the floor. Take, for example, the chair. So the chair is also, it's one thing, so it's a chair, but it's murkav, it's built out of many, many parts. As humans, we are the same. Human being. But as a human being, we are murkav, which means we are built out of many, many parts. And not only that, sometimes it's even more complex than that.
It's twofold.
Sorry?
It's twofold.
What do you mean?
One is physically, and one is spiritual.
Spiritually, right. So we can speak specifically or separately about both parts. We can focus just even on the spiritual part. What is the spiritual part of the human being? Yep. Netzach, the midot, the feelings, the emotions, and the intellect. The intellect is also murkav, because a little child does not know yet what an adult knows. So it means there's added information and intelligence in his mind. That is murkavut. That was added to him at a certain point. And with the emotions also, the emotions develop, and this person has more of an emotion of chesed, this person is more gevura. Does that have to do with the basis or the basic value of a person as a human being? No. There's a human being, and like we said, by the name everyone's equal. We'll learn a bit later on Parshas Kisisa. Everyone used to bring machatzisa shekel. And we are advancing towards the month of Adar. In the month of Adar, we bring machatzisa shekel. We have Parsha Shkolim. Everyone bought the same half a shekel, not according to the age, not according to the status, married, not married, no, not according to the wealth, not according to the wisdom, because there's that value, that level of a person, and that is name. And that's like the name, that's like the Achdut Shida.
Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher was saying, why, when we say Shema Israel,
Yeah.
Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, we do like this.
Okay.
You cannot see it, the hardness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. There was one, I forgot the word also about to focus on the purity, on the Achdut. You've got to avoid distractions from around us. So now let's talk about Hashem. So with human beings, we know we are, or everything in the world, everything is murkav. Even gold, by the way, on silver, for example, they have the best silver that you could get. It says 999.9 or something like that.
925.
Or 925, maybe that's the highest rate. And what does that represent? That the metal here, it's 95% silver, and the rest is other matachot, other metals. And gold, it's different. They have 24 carats, right? And that's soft. That's like because gold itself is soft. It's not, and in order to make it strong, you've got to mix in other metals. So that's where we see also the idea of murkav. And even gold is be'emet, it's also murkav. If you would be able to examine in a deeper way, you would see how it's murkav from different atoms and this type, this behavior, that behavior. So it's murkavut. They're still looking for the achdut pshuta. Perhaps that in Switzerland they have me'itz ha'chelkikim. It's like a long tube, or goes very, very fast. And I don't really understand what it does, but I think it tries to separate. What's that called? That's
It's not in fact that the Haldren, a collider.
Yeah, collider.
Synchrotron is it's called.
a collider. And what's the purpose? What is it doing?
That's actually splitting atoms.
Splitting atoms. And that's to find the achdut pshuta, the one part that is that everything starts from this. Because even atoms is something that's murkav.
Protons, photons.
Yeah, etc. All these things. So, by the way, there was a discussion between the Rabbi and forgot the name of another rabbi, about the foundations of the Talmud. How many rules can you find in the Talmud? So if you would ask me how many rules you find in the Talmud, I would say thousands. Every sugya has its own rule. If I would go a bit deeper, I would say there are maybe like 6 or 7 rules.
13.
Sorry?
13.
So the 13 midot she'Torah nidreshet bahem, those are like ways to understand. I've got to find an example for like showing a rule. Often it's used l'shitatayus. It's used when you have, let's say, a rabbi. I'll give you an example for this from this l'shitatayus. It's a great example. It says by bir chametz, we're coming also closer to Pesach soon. So by bir chametz, how do you do bir chametz? Got to get rid of the chametz. How do you do it?
You look for it. You burn.
You look for it, and once you find it, you gather everything together, and you burn it. Okay? Is that the only option?
No.
No. So there's another option. You can get rid of it. You can mefarer v'zoreh laruach. You can flush it. You can spray economica, pour economica on it. As long as it gets
Not usable.
not usable and not edible for human beings.
Also for
That's-
dogs.
and also for dogs. Nachon. Nachon. And that is the opinion of Chachamim. The opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is that you could only burn it, nothing else. That's their argument regarding Chametz and Pesach. Speed, fast, to our days, Bezrat Hashem, to the coming of Mashiach. It says, "Vehishbati chaya ra'a min haaretz." Hashem will get rid of bad animals in the land. What is this vehishbati? It's also like tashbitu, where it says by chametz, the same word, we use the same term. We see there's the same argument, there's the same machloket. The same machloket that Rabbi and Chachamim have. How you should get rid of your chametz, whether you should burn it, or there are many other ways to get rid of the nature of the chametz. That same argument applies also with chaya ra'a min haaretz, with the animals on the land.
מה הקשר עם האחדות?
Oh, so we're getting to it because it's showing the shitatayut, it's showing basically the oneness that Hashem has. And this is now on the stage of finding the oneness in the Torah.
אלו ואלו דברי תורת חיים.
Okay, okay. That's perhaps the source to that.
Apparently, it's a contradiction.
Contradiction to
Apparently, it is a contradiction between among these 70 פנים לתורה,
כן,
there are things that are in opposition one to the other.
נכון. It's a contradiction. But, so that's it, that it's at the basis, the foundation level, perhaps over there we can find the common denominator or the Achdut HaPshuta. So in the Torah, again, it's not as easy to find it, and we don't find it in every case, but this is the concept of the Shitatayu. So just to speak about what will be in the future, very relevant to our days, it is V'ishbatira chayara min haaretz, means Hashem will get rid of them. You won't see any lions. You won't see any snakes anymore. Or that Hashem will get rid of their bad nature. And lions could exist, but they're not going to be predators anymore. And that applies to all the other animals as well. And that's the same argument that Rabbi and Chachamim have. To get rid of your chametz means to burn it, which means it can't exist. Or perhaps it doesn't. You don't have to burn it. You can mefarer v'zoreh laruach.
Also in your mind.
What do you mean?
You can annul it in your mind.
Right. So besides doing the bitul chametz, you have to do the bir. That's the Gemara. That's the whole sugya in the Gemara. The Gemara says that
If you find it during Pesach,
yeah. So you've got to also burn it. It's not enough just to, if it's on Yom Tov, so you throw it in the toilet or something like that, because you're not over on an issur. But in the times of the Gemara, so again, you would cover it and only burn it after. There was no other way. You would burn it after the Chag, after the Yom Tov. So back to the unity of Hashem, or the unity of the Torah, there was a discussion between the Rabbi and another Talmid Chacham, another rabbi. How many foundations can we find in the Gemara? And I think the Rebbe's conclusion was that there's 2 yesodot in the Gemara. What does that mean? I don't understand. But it's definitely, it's like when someone opens...
did he say which one?
No, they didn't speak about the... But once you learn the Gemara, and so many times you learn the Gemara, you can understand that perhaps there's like 2 mindsets at the core of the different opinions and the different sugyas, that it's a path to the different dinim. Now, it doesn't mean that every din is the same. This is Masechtas Tanya, this is Masechtas Kiddushin, but it's like the questions of the Gemara, and this is the basis to understand the Gemara. Every din in the Gemara is what is the case, what is the din, and what is the source. That's what you're looking for in every case in the Gemara. My timer, minahane mili, and ma'adin. What's the din? What's the law in this case? So,
What is the duality?
So the duality is not. That's like the questions. That's what you've got to seek when you learn it. That's not the unity in the opinion itself. You got to find the unity in the answers, not in the questions.
According to the Maharal,
Yes.
this means duality in our world.
Okay, it depends what he's meaning there. But tov v'ra, is that the duality?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah. So I've got to find exactly more examples to show the achdut. But yeah, the shitatayu, take for example Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Okay, there's a common denominator in the opinion of Beis Hillel that you see throughout any Masechta. This is Kiddushin, and this is Nezikin, has nothing to do with each other, or this is Taharot. But still, nevertheless, in both cases, Beis Hillel says kasher, tahor, tar. Means he is taking the lenient opinion. Okay? So that's just one example. Now with Hashem, the unity is even stronger. And this is what's called Achdut Pshuta. Where do we see it? We see it, for example, we spoke about it a few times, the Chokhmah, the wisdom. Does Hashem become smarter after Einstein developed the theory of relativity? No. Or after we invent a new language? Now Hashem sees ChatGPT, says, wow, this is a great tool, and it makes him smarter. There's no such a thing as murkavut when you speak about Hashem. And why? It's because everything happens within him. This is the true idea of someone being one. Being one is not, or the real meaning of one. Achdut Pshuta. It's not one out of many. It's one, which means that this is the only thing that exists. Everything happens within him. We've got a question now. But Hashem is merciful. Hashem is Chanun, Rachum, v'Chasid. So Hashem also has attributes. And not only that, but it says that we have to follow him. L'dav Chabad. How can we follow Hashem? So it says, Ma hu rachum, the same way as he's merciful, afatah hayirachum. You should also be merciful. Ma hu chanun, afatah hayichanun. So if we have to follow Hashem in his rules, that means that it's not really a oneness that is simple. It's not achdut pshuta. It's murkav. It's built out of him one day saying, you know what, I'm going to be merciful. Then the next day he says, no, I'm going to use the meter of judgment. So wait a second. Hashem is not achdut pshuta. And not only that, how could he, I don't know much of a question in that, but the answer is, and we're going to read it b'arichut, the answer is that we cannot really understand what goes through Hashem's mind, how that thing works. And the example for that is from the hierarchy that we find in the world as it is now. Okay? So plants, for them to, they have a certain das. By the way, they have a nefesh, they have a soul. And for them to understand the way that animals act, it's like beyond their understanding. How could this animal move from one place to the other? Wow, it's unbelievable. Do they understand how it works? No. Can animals understand our ability of adding in the world, living, growing, moving from one place to the other? Maybe only a small, there are a few animals that have a small, they can use tools, let's say elephants, by the way, they're intelligent. So they could use a stick to scratch themselves if they need. Or they use the cheder. What other examples? Monkeys, right? Dolphins also, right? There's also a bird that can recognize itself in the mirror, if I'm not mistaken. One bird. So,
Monkeys.
monkeys,
They don't understand that.
sorry?
They don't understand the concept of that. I mean,
That's interesting, yeah.
Their mind, they're not worrying about
About it, right.
But what?
dying. I'm not sure that's true.
But
They might recognize that you're sad.
You know, elephants,
They think about their own death.
elephants, they know when they're going to die, and they move in a special place.
yeah.
If
So, they,
slaughterhouses, and I've never been.
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
You have to be careful.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in the cattle to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
If they realize that their end is coming.
Yeah.
They'll panic.
Right. It's a very good point. There's a famous story in the Gemara, but perhaps Ovadia is meaning something else, that they don't have the awareness that besides the physical pain, let's say, of death, or that they're not going to be around it, it's like they don't understand the full meaning of that, you know. So besides, for them, it's just about the pain or the suffering, but it's not the whole concept.
Elephants know perfectly.
Do they appoint someone else to become the leaders of the herd?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
It's interesting. Okay.
We have to add a safari to our list of trips.
I think also chimpanzees.
Chimpanzee is interesting. Okay. That would be perhaps the easiest one to go to. We have it very close. So, yeah. So, Yeah.
You know.
So again, with Hashem, again, so for them, again, so certain levels perhaps they can understand, but they don't understand the full way that we function. Even little children, right? Or sometimes you can see not only children, you can see a person that you respect very, very much, and he's a wise person, and he made a certain decision that you might question, you know. And this, by the way, happens all the time when Hashem brings to our table things that we don't want, we don't expect. And that's the way to deal with it. You don't know why this problem fell on your head in the middle of the day. And you tell Hashem, why did he give it to me? And this is the bitachon that we should have, that you know what? I don't understand why this happened, but it's good. I don't know why it's good. I don't know how it's good. It might be even painful. But Hashem says that Hashem gives us something, it's definitely for the good. So
He's good for our good.
for our good as well, right? That's the avodah. That's the whole. That's the challenge. But how do we cope with such a feeling? It's because we don't understand. There are languages we just don't understand, and it also applies to ways of behavior, right? Different ways to educate children based on different cultures. You're not going to understand why cultures act in certain ways, but for them it works.
Why there is no in-depth work commonly taught
Yeah.
about Gilgul Neshamot? Because with
Yeah.
Gilgul Neshamot, things are more easily understandable.
Right.
Without,
Exactly.
you can't understand it.
The-
So why don't anybody teach about Gilgul Neshamot?
Right. So it's a very, very good question. And first answer is that we don't know about Gilgul Neshamot much. We don't know, and it's very, very hard to understand in Gilgul
Sha'ar
Neshamot.
HaYichud
Yeah.
it's very
About
in-depth.
yeah. What happens also, another thing, is if, where do you start? At what point? What are you going to tell a person about his past?
Maybe you don't know exactly why.
No, but you're saying, why is it not taught? Let's say the rabbis would say, you know what? Let's teach every person about his Gilgul. So,
No,
what is Gilgul?
the idea of Gilgul.
The idea of Gilgul is, the idea,
Clarification on
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
reincarnation.
Ah,
Reincarnation. So, the answer is that it's just unknown. What people,
Hashem Echad is unknown.
no, but, so yeah, that's one of the ways to deal with the mission of the life.
Right.
It's not only in the past. The past is one thing, but there's about your mission today. You don't have to go to Gilgul Neshamot to find
No,
comfort in your challenges today.
we were speaking about why something happens, which we don't understand.
Yeah. So there's
With Gilgul Neshamot,
Okay.
you might understand some of the
what does it mean understand?
misfortune.
So the concept, yeah, the concept is it does apply. There is we said in Kriyat Shema Sha'ar HaMitah, by the way, which that's the place to contemplate about my avodah, and it's not really conventional to tell a person that you are here because of the past,
Why not?
because you want people to deal with the present. You don't want them to be stuck in the past.
Are we afraid of truth?
I guess it's not only that, or there's the real meaning of Gilgul Neshamot. What is the real meaning behind Gilgul Neshamot?
Your neshama
Dira LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Tachtonim. Why does the neshama have to go through the Gilgul? Why was it here in the first place?
to perfect something was wrong before.
So that's half an answer.
Yes.
Because what about the one before that? It's not only about the one before.
Start from Adam Rishon.
Yeah, in fact, why was Adam HaRishon put here in the world?
Why he was put here in the world?
Yes.
To bring a Shekhinah.
Yafeh, and that's what's mainly discussed in Chassidus, to bring the Shekhinah here. This Gilgul, that Gilgul, the Gilgul is a plaster. But you've got to answer, but why that Neshama was there?
So if it is a plaster, what did
You could use it, and it is brought in Hasidus.
I'll write the Sefer Gilgul Neshamot. It's a habit. It's like this.
Yeah. Would be interesting to see it. I never really read it in depth.
Very
But
interesting.
one of the challenges not the challenges, but the mission that you see in Judaism is not to escape.
Oh.
Not to escape from reality. And by that, part of it is also not to blame the neshama of the previous generation.
Can you say Hakira on Torah or no?
So, can you say what?
Apply the term Hakira.
Hakira?
Yes.
There's Sifrei Hakira, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have be afraid of Hakira.
No, we're not afraid of Hakira. But you've got to...
Well, put it aside.
You've got to know how to benefit from it and how it might cause people. There's one story from the Baal Shem Tov. I'll tell you what Rabbi Yonatan Sachs says about pain in general.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, why doesn't Hashem explain pain? Why doesn't he just tell us, why did this happen? Because so and so. And he brings a beautiful answer, and he says that sometimes Hashem does things that are not understood. He wants them to stay in that way in order for us not to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you would understand everything. Imagine you understand, oh, you're the perfect neshama of this, and that. You wouldn't find it a challenge. You would accept everything. And for example, even more than that. Before, I don't understand what you mean, but before, for example, chas v'shalom lo aleinu, someone loses a loved one. Now, if you would understand why it happened, you wouldn't feel much pain. You wouldn't feel his missing, and therefore you wouldn't feel his presence also. So certain things, we keep it closed on purpose and shouldn't open it, because yes, there's an idea behind living in this metichut, in this tensity. That we are belachat sometimes, yes. We've got to figure out that's what causes us to strive and to work on ourselves to become better, to figure out what's going on over here. Avodat Hashem. If everything is because of the previous Gilgul, then you might say, well, that's the previous Gilgul's problem. Yeah.
It's a kind of sadism.
Sorry?
If my past
Yeah.
in this life wakes me up every night, which it does, I can't imagine. Well, I would never sleep.
Right.
I had to deal with the previous ones.
Right. Nachal.
And if you are,
Why? You could try to fix it.
well, hopefully I'm doing that to
Yeah,
this one.
exactly. That's the point. That we can't know too much.
If you really
So he lies. That's why I said Meshmatza Katan.
What do you mean by that?
If you know why something has happened, because Avraham Avinu was told your form is going to be Mitzrayim, they will suffer this and that.
And there's another.
If you don't know it, you cry to Hashem, why?
Yes, and that helps you more.
What? To cry?
Yeah, that would bring it earlier. It's like, let's say, Sdom and Amorah. You brought the example of Abraham. Abraham praying about Sdom and Amorah. If he would understand that Sdom and Amorah, they have a certain punishment that they've got to go through, that's to purify them. It's a perfect, Hashem, excellent decision, that's it. He wants to try and change things. He wants to make it better. And you can't make it better if you understand the whole picture. You're not going to change the pre-made decisions of Hashem.
Someone reincarnated to correct something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live a perfect life, you're done.
Yes. No, you're not.
Okay? It's all about the mission. Also with that, it's not simple, it's not easy. It says that the neshama comes down to the world for 70, 80 years just to do a favor to another person, to another yid. What does that mean? That the moment that a person does kindness, that's it, that's his mission. So it's not that simple. You've got your primary mission and you've got other missions because you're part of a larger picture. So it's not that simple. Like fixing the previous Gilgul doesn't mean that doesn't mean that everything that you do every single moment has to do with the previous Gilgul. And you might be going through other challenges, not 100% because of that Gilgul, but there's like one life mission that you're waiting for, that is your Masima of your Gilgul. but you do many other things as well.
And a baby might die in its first year because it only had
So that's where we did see where the Baal Shem Tov actually told was a couple that didn't have children for many, many years. And they prayed to the Shem, they asked the bracha from the Baal Shem Tov gave them a bracha. And at age 3, this child passed away. So they came to the Baal Shem Tov, they told the Baal Shem Tov, you gave us the bracha, it's a bracha b'tzadik, but only for 3 years. And imagine, this is like one of the hardest things to deal with. So the Baal Shem Tov told them that this neshama, he told them, according to your mazal, you shouldn't have had children. That's but he was able to give a special bracha that you would get this holy neshama that was missing 3 years of its early years, that it did not live in a kosher home or something like that. You fulfilled that part for the neshama and elevated it, and that's it. But usually we're not told these things. Then for them, because of such a terrible situation, so the Baal Shem Tov told them. So yeah, we can learn that anything that happens, it's part of a larger picture that we don't understand. What exactly is the picture? We don't know. So with Hashem, Ein Retzono v'Chochmato v'Midat Chasdo v'Rachmanuto v'Sha'ar Midotav Mosifin bo Rivui v'Arkova Chas v'Shalom v'Oneness of HaShem. All of Hashem's attributes, midot, intellect, etc., do not add to Hashem. Ela, it's all one. Hakol achdut pshuta mamash shehi atzmuto mot. Everything is part of Hashem's oneness, unity, and that is the core of Hashem.
So we are trying to explain.
כמו שכתב הרמב"ם, שדבר זה אין כוח בפה לאמרו. We don't have the power to say it, because we don't really understand it. ולא באוזן לשמוע ולא בלב האדם להכירו על בוריו. We cannot understand this idea entirely, that it's all part of the one existence of Hashem.
So we are
Why? Because we imagine things based on how they are within us. Yes.
So we are trying to explain something which is not explaining.
Right. And it's just there's something, להכיר את המציאות ולא להכיר את המהות. To know the fact, but not to understand how it works. And one of the reasons is because this is what the Alter Rebbe says, is that everything, and we can see it, everything that we have, we try and look for a parable, for example, we picture it like it is in us. It's not only about Hashem, it's about, someone tells you a story, you immediately relate with the story that happened to you. You're not going to understand his case scenario 100%. You're going to understand the way it would happen to you, for example. And that is, again, because we all are according to one pattern. And that's why we cannot understand the way it works with Hashem, because we barely can understand anything else around us. We understand things in our terminology. אבל באמס, הקדוש ברוך הוא רם ונישא וקדוש שמו. כלומר, what does it mean, kadosh? What is the meaning of kadosh? Separated. Holiness, and the meaning of holiness, like we say, harei at mekudeshet li, you are sanctified, which means also separated.